Hello and welcome, race fans, to round number 11 of the 2018 AARO AMP Energy Racing Series season, the Hardee's 250 at the Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee. The AAA pole award goes to Clyde Lattinger in car number 34 for Richer Racing. To his outside is Ashton Short in second, Jonathan Ringer third, Jerry Richardson fourth, and Madison Vermette completes the top five as we go green flag under the lights here in Bristol. And immediately, Lattinger out to a great start over Ashton Short, who occupies the inside lane. Jonathan Ringer right behind him in third. So good start for all of the leaders. James Rodan quickly finds himself on the outside lane. He and Jack Jefferson make contact out of turn two. Those two and Jimmy Cohone all go into the inside wall. And no harm. It doesn't appear to be too serious damage-wise for any of them on board with Jack Jefferson right there. As Cohone makes it out okay, he would have a slight bit of engine damage, though, in car 33. No caution, surprisingly, for that incident, as the officials said earlier on in the weekend that they would not be too keen on throwing yellow flags. Ooh, Jared Cash and Tommy Richer making a little bit of contact out of turn number two. Cash gets thrown up to the outside. He's in a three-wide battle on the start-finish line there. Jalen Scranton was on the outside of a three-wide battle there. Cash and Richer made contact. Richer merges safely back up into traffic despite losing quite a few spots in the two-car. He merges safely. Seth McGuire in the 6 machine here on lap 9 unfortunately has to pit for a deflating tire, and that's really been the story of the past few weeks for this 6 team. They were looking for a good run. Unfortunately, not going to have it happen tonight. Ashton Short in the 19 goes by Clyde Lattinger in the 34 and takes the lead for himself. And Ashton Short definitely making a name for himself in this series, and Sam Davids Racing having a solid season so far. Michael Carter, the points leader, moving around Herb Cilantro on lap number 18 for position 18. And Nate Smith right behind him in the 83 car in 19th. Neither one of those two having exactly the runs that they would hope for at this given moment, but Nate Smith trying to better that as he moves underneath Carter a few laps later to take the position away. Madison Vermette catching up on Jimmy Cohone here. They make a little bit of contact. Cohone didn't appreciate that little bit of contact between himself and the 0-1. Vermette not willing to exercise a lot of patience with Cohone there. Shoves him up the track in turn 3 and gets him out of the way as soon as possible. Greg Nee moving by him as well. Cohone once again goes 3 wide. His teammate David Hugar replacing the injured Barry Juveno. He and Jordan Tipson make contact. Hugar up into the wall. Caution number 1 on lap 57. Tyler Diefer piles in. Darcy Lusk also nowhere to go. Herb Cilantro with a bit of front-end damage as well. And that's going to take cars number 77 and 20 out of this race. And Tipson was on the inside. He didn't necessarily have to keep turning right there, but yeah, that was a little bit of over-exuberance on the part of Tipson there. So I'm sure the officials will have a look at that incident for sure. And Tipson on a 1-year deal, so that's certainly not going to make Show TA Motorsports all that happy. On board with Chris Morissette, he was right behind this incident as it happened. Whoa! And that was a nifty bit of driving, a couple feet forward, and that would have been the end of Morissette's day. So the $75 seat award goes to car 92. Looking at Tyler Diefer here, yep, that was what was expected. Hugar slid down the racetrack, nowhere for the 20 car to go, or Darcy Lusk. And Lusk would continue on with a little bit of damage, but the 77 and 20, unfortunately for them, are done. Jonathan Ringer in the 36, unfortunately had a problem getting that car refired, so tough break for the 36. A little bit of contact between Vermette and Richson there, excuse me. So Jonathan Ringer, awful pit stop on this 36 team, as Seth McGuire goes car number 36 out and away. So tough break for Jonathan Ringer in the 36 car for sure. Greg Nee restarted as the leader, Luke Kinzen in second. Those two stayed out. We're focused on Ashton Short in the 19 car. He and Herb Cilantro had some contact in the pit lane. Cilantro had to retire, unfortunately for him. Contact between Lusk and that was James Rodan on the 31. But Short off the pace as a result of the contact that was made. We're looking at Michael Carter, Carson Crompton, and Chris Morissette here. All three of them ducked to the inside line after the restart since it was open. And using that inside line, they rocket past quite a few drivers. Luke Kinzen got caught on the outside lane there. And Kinzen trying to fight back on Michael Carter, unable to do so, but some savvy work there by some of the lap cars behind the leaders. And they were able to gain some spots from it. Luke Kinzen in car number 02 is making just his second start of the season. It has been a nightmare of a season for him, as he just signed a hefty contract with this team that extends for another 3 years. And Luke Kinzen was restarted in second, but he's quickly dropping down the order, trying to find his way back in. And Kinzen formerly ran for Skulls Racing and has definitely not had the season he's been looking for. Contact between Ashton Short and Brad Curtis there, and I believe Jordan Tipson got involved as well. No caution. You can see the pace car in the bottom left of the screen. Kent Grosso, a little bit too over-exuberant, gets into the quarter panel of the 19. Brad Curtis, just an innocent bystander, victim of circumstance, really. And Jordan Tipson as well, getting some contact in the 18 car. But all seems to be okay. No harm, no foul. No cautions either. So, not sure it seems the officials not willing to throw out the yellow flag. As we're focused on Chris Morissette in car number 92, currently running in the 4th spot, having a very solid run in this car. He's missed quite a few races so far this year, but he's looking to try and get Porter Racing Corporation's first win of the season. Bjorn Brewer came close earlier on in the year, but Morissette's supposed to be the shining ray of hope for this team, and so far he's proving their optimism right. Lap number 98, Carson Crompton moves by Michael Carter to take the lead of the race. Chris Morissette, or second, excuse me, sorry, as Chris Morissette using Darcy Lusk there, and the 84 getting around the 39. Carter was still stuck on the outside line. Morissette takes the opportunity to go to the bottom and take over the 3rd spot. As lap number 110, Madison Vermette using Ashton Short somewhat as a pick to go around Jerry Richardson to take over 4th. Nate Smith follows through to 5th. And about 10 laps later, Smith would not be content with 5th and go underneath Vermette to take over 4th. And James Rodin in car number 31 off the pace from his damage earlier, helping him out right here. On the rear bumper shot now of Chris Morissette, being hounded by last week's winner Nate Smith in the number 83 Juicy Fruit Toyota Camry for ACS Racing. Hot on the heels, right up to the back bumper of the Robin Hood Chevrolet, unable to make a move just yet. And behind both of them, Casey Lester trying to track down Jean Serator in car number 40, having a great run, still substituting Grant Jacobs, who was suspended for violating the drug use policy. And Aaron Gallagher running back in 8th place, just behind Jerry Rich and giving Garth Enterprises a solid run so far. Carson Crompton trying to track down Greg Nee, the race leader, but Jalen Scranton is in between the 53 and the 84, and Seth McGuire is acting as a buffer between the 84 and 3rd place Chris Morissette. Jean Serator makes the mistake of going through on the high line through turns 3 and 4 this lap and gets caught behind Ashton Short. Casey Lester says, "Thank you very much, I'll gain a spot." Sean Glossum right behind him says, "Thank you very much, I'll gain 2 spots." As he goes underneath Short there, he's around Jerry Richardson. So Sean Glossum making it 2 cars of JN Motorsports in the top 5. Aaron Gallagher goes around with some contact between Serator and Ashton Short on lap 158. Luckily for the 89 car, he doesn't lose very many spots. And Gallagher just outside of the top 10 now, but currently still in a respectable position. And note how I just said that Sean Glossum was inside the top 5. I stand corrected. He was in the top 10. But sometimes in this life, you need a little bit of help from your friends. And Seth McGuire exemplifying this as he pushes Casey Lester up to the high side coming out of the pits. And Sean Glossum moves around car number 87 to take over the 5th spot. And McGuire, as a good teammate, should let his faster teammate who was on the lead lap through and go by for track position. As Carson Crompton utilizing the opportunity in front of him with Jalen Scranton still racing race leader Greg Nee. Crompton sneaks to the inside and takes the lead for himself here on lap number 173. So ACS Racing once again solidifying themselves as a contender up in front for this race win. As Greg Nee facing pressure from Chris Morissette, and now Nate Smith, who goes around the 92 car for 3rd. But Carson Crompton getting held up just a little bit by teammate Aaron Anderson, and that's going to allow Greg Nee to go through to the top spot. A little bit of contact there between the 53 and the 85. No harm, no foul. Anderson tried to clear him, but Nee came up with a faster approach. Nate Smith, ACS Racing, not really too bad off. As a result, Nate Smith goes through to second, and Carson Crompton slots right in line in third place. As James Rodin and car number 31 in the pit lane again, nearly 4 wide, nearly some contact there on lap 181. Bjorn Brewer with a dive bomb through turn 3 and 4. What a move, and that's going to give him clear sailing up in front of him. What a move by Bjorn Brewer in car number 93. Only problem with this is that he's several laps down, so it wasn't for any position. That move was, I guess, strictly for track position, if that means anything to the 93 of Bjorn Brewer, who has not had a very good day. He's at this point currently running in the 35th spot. So Porter Racing Corporation with a mixed bag as far as their car performance tonight. Sean Glossum tries to make a peek underneath Carson Crompton for third. He's able to complete the pass through 3 and 4. He's going to drag Jerry Richardson, car number 54, through as well into the 4th spot. And Glossum trying to step it up one further, going underneath Smith, trying to take the lead of the race. How is he taking the lead? You saw Greg Nee on the inside of the track. Well, why was he going into the pit lane? It's been quite a long green flag run. You guessed it, green flag pit stops in the closing stages, as that is Jerry Richardson. That's Luke Kinzen, sorry. Cody Lochner's exiting the pits as well. Tommy Richer and Ike Durbin make contact at the end of the backstretch pit lane. No caution for this, obviously. Richard just coming in, Durbin coming out. It's a little miscommunication that often happens here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. No harm, no foul, just some right side damage for the 86 car of Ike Durbin, and he would carry on as if nothing happened. Madison Vermette coming out, his teammate Jared Cash trying to come in. They make contact. Vermette goes up the track right in front of Carson Crompton, and around goes the 81. The 84 is done, the 01, excuse me. Aaron Gallagher piles in, John Sarator, Jack Jefferson as well. That wasn't necessary. Oh, Jared Cash. He's had a mixed season, and that's definitely got to be one of the lower points. Looking at Carson Crompton, just nowhere to go. 01 came right up the track with some help from his teammate Cash there. Sarator's in it. Gallagher piles in after a solid run. Jack Jefferson getting involved there as well. And, man, Jared Cash, after winning at Livonia, he's had several strong runs. And this was going to be a decent run for car number 0, but certainly it's going to be tainted now. After that contact, the meeting in the KGI hauler's got to be a little awkward, I'd have to imagine. And Jerry Richardson coming out, Jack Jefferson coming in. They make contact. I don't have anything to say for that. That's... wow. Jack Jefferson goes around. He continues on in this race. His teammate, his car owner, obviously does not. Boy, I have no words. Actually, no, Jack Jefferson would retire as a result because he piled in to that little stack up on the backstretch that caused the caution. So that's 2 JRM cars out. And that's all I have to say for that. Nate Smith leading. Michael Carter second. Kane Dwyer third. As we take the restart, several cars caught on the end of the lead lap here. Keith Jesse being the last of them. He's in 10th place. So we have the restart with 50 laps to go. You can see several lap cars on the inside line. Several cars on the tail end. Casey Lester caught up ahead in 9th. As he and Jesse are going to be begging for a caution to try and get themselves back in this race. Chad Lipinski is the first of the lead lap cars to find himself on the inside. Nate Smith was unable to do the same. And Lipinski makes a move on lap number 203, and he goes by Nate Smith to nab the lead of the race for himself. Put Keith Jesse a lap down, 9 cars left on the lead lap at this moment. And what a win would mean for Garth Enterprises. Boy, that would be the world to them. As Lipinski was in contention earlier at Willow Point, and obviously contact with Glossum took him out of that one. And unfortunately for the 88 car, Ryan Barley would race with him towards the end of this one, as Barley already a lap down, I believe, trying to, I guess, maintain track position. But Nate Smith uses that chance that he has on the inside to go through and pass Chad Lipinski for the lead once again in the closing stages of this race. And Lipinski would not be able to find an opening on the bottom. Michael Carter sees this and goes through. You might want to maintain some distance from that 0 car as Carter goes through to take over the second spot in the closing laps, but he's got about 4 or 5 cars in between himself and Nate Smith. Contact between Jared Cash and Sean Glossom is going to send both of them up the racetrack. And Chad Lipinski is going to go by, again, just for track position. It doesn't necessarily mean anything for the 0 car. But this is going to be a race to forget for Jared Cash now for sure. As Nate Smith comes to 10 laps to go, he's right at the back bumper of Ryan Barley. Doesn't need to make a move by any stretch. He can just coast from here. He's got 4 or 5 cars between himself and Michael Carter. White flag in the air this time by lap 250. And he's doing just that. He's cruising home. No pressure on the 83 car. Through turns 3 and 4. Checkered flag is in the air, and Nate Smith takes his second straight win, the Hardee's 250, here at Bristol. And that would be the fourth win of the season for ACS Racing as they continue their torrid hot streak of this season. So, under the lights in Bristol, Nate Smith takes out his 3rd win of the season, the 4th win for ACS Racing, and Smith has now won 3 out of the last 6 events. Michael Carter finishes in the runner-up position. Kane Dwyer, really didn't mention him all night, had a very quiet run, but he comes home on the bottom step of the podium, if you will. Chad Lipinski finishes 4th, the first top 5 for Garth Enterprises all season. Congratulations to those guys. They finally get somewhat of a good break. Pulse hitter Clyde Lattinger finishes 5th, rounding out the top 5. Jack Walter, another driver who we did not mention at all, really wasn't anywhere, wasn't up front with the leaders, just kept his head down, made sure to bring his car home in one piece, and gets rewarded for it with a 6th place finish. Bo Phillips brings the 15 Cascadet Chevrolet home in 7th. Chris Morissette, Walter's teammate, finishes 8th. And Bjorn Brewer, unfortunately for that team, ran towards the back of the field the entire night. So 2/3 of the Porter Racing Corporation team certainly has something to be happy about, not so much the other third. Casey Lester finishes in 9th place, and he was the last car remaining on the lead lap. Zach McRae rounds out the top 10, 1 lap down. Jumping right along into the point standings, Michael Carter pads his points lead, now up to 53 points ahead of Kane Dwyer. Casey Lester 3rd, 129. He maintains his position, loses quite a bit of ground to Nate Smith in the 83 car, who leapfrogs his teammate Carson Crompton in points, 150 and 223 points back respectively between those two, but it's a much larger gap from Crompton to Ringer than it is from Smith to Crompton, as Ringer sits 316 points behind his teammate Carter, and only 4 points separate the 36 and 7th place Zach McRae, 320 points back. Jack Jefferson sits in 8th, 364 behind, and certainly the bit of brain fade that he and car owner Jerry Ritson had under the second caution period isn't going to help his matters much. Jared Cash in car number 0 sits in 9th place, 372 behind, and Jalen Scranton finds himself back up inside the top 10 in points.